What screams, poorly educated? Having pride in not knowing something. That always shocks me, but it's pretty common. Some people make ignorance the core of their personality to the point that they're actually proud of all the things they don't know. These are the same people who brag about not having read a book since high school. Using buzzwords without knowing what they mean, especially when you ask them to clarify what they are talking about, and they continue regurgitating the same buzzwords. You're a socialist, fascist, racist, Marxist, communist. Both sides? Don't gaslight me. When you're in an argument, and the person you are arguing with thinks they are winning because they keep interrupting you and won't let you talk, drives me up a wall. In more than one conversation I have used the phrase, getting louder and repeating yourself doesn't make you less wrong. Thinking that getting a pay raise means you'll make less money because you are in a higher tax bracket. Employers aren't going out of their way to correct that narrative. If this post gets 200,000 shares, big corporation will donate a kidney to this brave little girl in desperate need. Actually commenting and sharing a FB post to win a custom RV because the last person they tried to give the prize to was underage, so couldn't accept. Or anything of that ilk. I remember like 15 years ago seeing a picture on Facebook of a little girl with all kinds of tubes coming out of her, and if this gets 10k shares the doctor will perform the life-saving surgery on her for free and people sharing it left and right. As if the doctors were so horrible and heartless that they would only perform life-saving surgery if enough people shared her picture. Sorry little girl, you're gonna die 'cause not enough people care. Oh well. Reading a headline and thinking you now know the whole story? So most Reddit users? No, we go to the comments hoping the bot pastes the content in a comment. Ignore it, then argue about what the headline says. Lack of curiosity, unwillingness to learn. I have talked to neighbors and coworkers that I thought were backwards and unintelligent, and been very surprised by their willingness to explain their position and listen to mine and reconsider and learn and maybe even research a little. Those folks are intelligent and growing and have just come to a different conclusion than me, and I can respect that even if I disagree. I have family members who are way more book educated than I am who have drank the Kool-Aid and believe what Facebook and certain news stations that are more like entertainment stations tell them in snippets. It's like their brains turn off about certain topics, and they don't want to debate, understand, only parrot. I don't judge on grammar or appearance because I don't know other people's backstory. But if you can't be open-minded, you are stagnant. Someone I went to school with was telling online how their child asked a very reasonable question about a zoo animal while they were at the zoo, and they laughed him off because it was about a bodily function and kids will be kids. I looked it up on my phone and had the answer posted in 2 minutes. They were all, "Yeah, figures you'd do that, you were always the smart one." And I said no, I have a phone and I used it. The kid was curious. I too was curious. He's not going to know unless you tell him. Too young for his own phone at the time. Teach him how to find out, and he will never be ignorant. The worst part is that this same parent was homeschooling at the time. Poor kid. Edit. I did miss the topic a bit in that curiosity can be a personality trait. However, willingness to research how to Google how to simply ask someone without fear of embarrassment can be modeled in one's education. If you are supported when young on finding out an answer being half the fun, you will be less likely to stay ignorant. That's my opinion. I will never understand flat earthers. You can literally see the curvature of Earth depending on where you are. Don't try to reason someone out of an idea they didn't reason themselves into. Lack of critical thinking and dismissal of science and the scientific method. When objectivity and rationality are viewed as dangerous and threatening. A refusal to admit that you're wrong or don't know something. An inability to objectively analyze something, an article, an opinion, etc. Treating people who speak with an accent like they are ignorant or inferior. These people are literally communicating to you in a second language to them. That's what gets me. Yeah, some verbs and nouns might be misplaced in the sentence, but you understood what they meant, and you can't speak 2 languages. You speak your language because you know no other. I speak your language because you know no other. Confusing someone's level of formal education and their intelligence. The dumbest person I work with has a master's degree. My boss has multiple degrees, yet he still can't figure out how to open a Zoom meeting by himself. I taught a young man, a couple of decades ago, who was never, ever going to learn Spanish well enough to pass my class with anything other than a charitable D. He just couldn't process another language. However, for his final project for my class, he asked if he could play a work on piano by a Latin American composer. I accepted, provided he got one of his music professors to help me evaluate the technical aspects that I wouldn't have been able to distinguish. Kid was a virtuoso. He played Astor Piazzolla's Milonga del Angel without any sheet music. It was just lovely. Intelligence and talent take many forms. I can get having a degree and yet being unable to do basic things. My late mother was able to draw anything she saw as a lifelike rendering on paper. She did watercolors that were exquisite. The mantel above my fireplace is walnut that she hand sculpted, just to see if she could do it. However, she couldn't manage money at all, like pitifully bad. I don't know where I'm going with this anymore. I started thinking about my mama and lost where I was going. Sorry. I don't like to criticize people for lack of education because not everyone is afforded the same opportunities, but I am astonished at the amount of people who have gone to school and everything in it seems to have rolled off of them like water off a raincoat. There's grown-ass adults who have no grasp of really basic concepts taught in middle or primary school or who can barely read or write in their native language despite having graduated high school. I had a student social worker one summer. She couldn't spell or print, let alone decide if her name should be spelled with a Y, I or E. It was Ashley. This is a person who will decide whether to take children away from parents one day. Bragging about not reading. Definitely hated reading after being forced to read books like The Scarlet Letter or The Bell Jar in high school. Not enjoyable books for a 16-year-old. Picked up a book during COVID that I enjoyed and found out reading is sick. It's like TV in your brain. 10/10 recommend it. Everybody that calls me a loser. Tighten up. Taking social media, influencers, seriously. There. I hate seeing bawling when people mean bawling. I know it's a less common word than there, but still. They be bawlin'. Not wanting your kids to do better than you. That's not being poorly educated. That's being narcissistic. Alpha male. I did a tour with wolves a few months ago, where we got up close to them and could hang out with them. One of the handlers told us that the term, alpha male, referred to the male who took care of the whole pack. We are talking everyone from babies to sick ones to grannies. His line that I'll never forget was, "So next time someone refers to themselves as an alpha male, make sure they understand that the alpha male is the guy pushing the stroller with a fanny pack full of band-aids, lollipops, and medicine." TIL. I'm an alpha male. Wanting to defund education. Believing literally everything from the internet. Worse, spreading online news. Writing, "I should have done something." A shocking number of people don't understand the V is not of. Like shocking. I seen that on TV. Edit. I personally haven't encountered this outside of northern US, poorly educated white communities of varying means, so I hadn't thought to connect it with Black vernacular English or any particular dialect. Thanks for clarifying, folks, even the rude ones. Willful ignorance. Poor grammar. Being a flat earther or anti-vaxxer. Confederate flag apparel, overtly patriotic, truck nuts. The best is the mixture of Confederate shit and overt patriotism. Confused idiocy on display. If there's a Confederate flag flying outside of your house. Agreed. I live in the South, and it's important to note that 99.99999% of the people here who fly that flag know exactly what it means and exactly what they're doing. Being really loud for no reason. I see you've met my sister. 99% of our customers recommend us. Yeah, because the people who didn't like your company are no longer customers. Not questioning everything at least a little bit. Lack of understanding of basic historical scientific facts. Many people conflate deficient critical thinking skills with being poorly educated or unintelligent. In my experience, though, the level of education or overall intelligence does not necessarily indicate proficiency in critical thinking or the ability to engage in logical reasoning. Having no basic geography knowledge. No lie. I was talking to a 17-year-old at work the other day. She didn't know where Spain was. This is in the UK and Spain is one of our most popular holiday destinations. She had probably been there herself. I moved to Mississippi. Long story. When asked by one of the locals where I was from, I replied, Seattle. They asked me what country it's in. People who litter. People who can't follow simple traffic rules. People who are impolite to minimum wage workers. Basically, inconsiderate people with zero civic sense. Every single internet math problem. Refusing to hear or analyze data. Defending billionaires thinking you'll be one someday while working for the man. Constantly downplaying others' education and achievements to prove their own intelligence. My sister worked at a pool as a lifeguard attendant. One of the other lifeguards told her, I refuse to clean the bathroom. I have a graduate degree and I'm not going to be told what to do by someone with an associate's. My sister was like, then why are you working at a pool as a lifeguard? Using stuff read on Facebook as a basis of your actions and beliefs. Flat earthers. Choosing to hate something they don't know anything about. Being a Proud Boy. I must say, the name Proud Boys always sounded to me like some gay activist group. I guess that's because of that whole pride thing, but that contrast always made me chuckle a bit. Saying, I could care less. Unless you could care less? The entire Q thing. Mocking someone speaking in broken English. Building a submarine out of expired carbon fiber. People who lack critical thinking skills and the ability to work independently. Trying to tell subject matter experts that they're wrong about their SM. Please keep telling me about how I'm wrong about the exact thing I got a degree for while you watched a video that is more valuable than my piece of paper. See how far that gets you. Or that 4 doctors in the nation are telling the truth about vaccines while all the others are being paid off by pharmaceutical companies. We should support Russia. Hey, OP asked for poorly educated, not brain dead. You use air quotes whenever you say the word scientists. Flat Earth. Do your own research, or I did my own research. Among my educated friends, some who actually are in research, no one actually says that out loud. Because they don't need to say that out loud. Racism. Japan looks around nervously. Being proud of not reading. Having a strong opinion about everything. The older I get, the more I realize I don't know anything. The more I want to listen, learn, grow. I give myself the grace and space to grow and change in every aspect of my life. Bigotry, homophobia, and racism. Refusal to put themselves in anyone else's shoes. Claiming you know all about something really advanced that requires years of teaching and practice. Law, medicine, science, engineering, all because you watched a few shitty YouTube videos that only confirmed your bias. And you're certain you must be correct because a few famous people have the same opinion. Racist people. Believing your religion dictates others' healthcare. My Uncle Jim. He's honestly the world's last caveman. I can't say why. But car truck windows with all the decals and text. Little sayings and death tributes. Voting against one's best self-interest. Traditional names spelled uniquely. Elizabeth Eglisabeth. Degrading education to the point of bragging about your own ignorance. Thinking that education is about what to think rather than how to think. Bigotry. The more education you receive, the more exposure you have to people with different ideas and backgrounds. Education leads to understanding and understanding leads to acceptance. Yes, obviously there are well-educated bigots, and no amount of education can make someone change their opinions if they aren't open-minded enough to change. No shit. The question is, what screams poorly educated? My point is that poorly educated people are much more likely to be bigots than those with a higher education. If you disagree with that, I got nothing for you. Go on thinking that education has no effect on racism or homophobia, I guess? I'm honestly surprised that I had to explain myself this much. Oi. Not knowing incredibly basic things that any child should have learned. Everything is a conspiracy theory. Support for Trump. Someone with a degree in gender studies. Doesn't believe in objective truth. Pretty common, actually. Having children before getting your own life in order. Most of Reddit. Hating socialism, but loving the police and military that everyone pays for. Someone who doesn't read books. Racism, sexism, homophobia, propensity for violence, disregard for the rights of others, hypocrisy between loudly proclaimed opinion and action, sexual irresponsibility. Homotransphobes. At my previous office, people would make fun of me for sharing knowledge, whereas I would get absolutely scolded when I tried to show interest in football, or soccer for Americans, of which I knew nothing. I tried to be friendly by asking questions about football stories, but they would stop and scold me right away. However, when someone would throw a question or idea into the group about the universe, movies, or general knowledge, they would make fun of me for knowing the facts. This behavior among my superiors was a big key factor for me to leave the company. It was apparent to me why growth in the firm was stagnant. Demanding simple solutions to complex problems. People who judge a place or people without ever having been or interacted, basically stereotypes. My mother absolutely hated Texas. She'd never been, and I have no idea what her deal was other than not being at all well-traveled. But yeah, she hated it, and could never say why. She had dementia and was still pissed when I moved to Austin in 2008. I've also dealt with a high volume of people along the East Coast who talk shit about California, and again, have never been. I lived in various states, and it is always a learning experience, and has made my life just that much better. The way they speak. I deal with the public all day, every day on the phone. I can tell immediately who is educated and who is not. It's in the way they pronounce their words, precise or with a slur, the words they use, their grammar, and their use of certain slang. Stubbornness, that is an attitude that they already know it all. They don't need to know anything else. The same for anyone talking about politics, see below, who immediately assumes anyone who doesn't think like them is, insert insult, that is, being completely closed-minded, stubborn and unwilling to see another POV, being inflexible, and completely, 1000% assured they, and only they, are right, though they, proved by their attitude, they have not done any real research, have no concept of nuance, or the ability to compromise, i.e., they lack empathy for anyone who disagrees with them even slightly. Dogmatic. Hey, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I really wanted to tell you about a product that changed my life. You can work for the company from home and earn lots of money if you prove your loyalty. All you need to do is get others to join in. Kardashian fan. Wearing a red hat that says "Make America Great Again." It certainly makes them easy to spot. The science is settled. Science is a methodology, not a state of being. There may be scientific consensus, but that consensus is always subject to upset by new evidence or new data. Scientific consensus is wrong about as often as it is right, more so as you go deeper and deeper into things. A lack of understanding of basic geography. The use of unprofessional language in professional environments. The inability to provide evidence to support any argument you make. The biggest one is a refusal to learn when a person refuses to admit when they are wrong and accept a new truth when faced with compelling evidence. Putting your bare feet up while on a plane. Anyone who likes and shares those stupid like and share if you agree posts on Facebook, usually about sensitive topics or untrue stories and scenarios, usually done for malicious reasons. One I've seen. This black man harmed 3 children and got away with murder, as he is transgender. Like and share if you think he should be hanged. The photo was a poorly photoshopped of a random dude's mugshot from 2012. He was arrested for armed robbery and sentenced for 6 years. He wasn't trans or anything. Made my blood boil the amount of people falling for it and saying horrific shit about a topic they learned about in the Daily Mail. Saying Pacific instead of specific. Saying mute instead of moot. Believing conspiracy theories. Often these people are not unintelligent. They just haven't had an education. There's often some decent logic to their beliefs, they just started with some odd assumptions or the foundations of their knowledge were bullshit. Saying there's proof that, insert religion here, is correct. Bad grammar. Writing to instead of to, or your instead of your. Thinking mass generalizations are absolute truths. Not using credible sources, or not using any sources or evidence at all. Voting for Donald Trump. Voting for Ted Cruz. Voting for Greg Abbott. Voting for NPG. Voting for Ron DeSantis. voting for Lauren Boebert, voting for Matt Gaetz, just voting for the worst types of human beings. Thought and prayer. Social media posts with bad spelling and grammar. Voting for politicians who want to take away your rights. Believing that elected officials actually give a fuck about you. Math is pointless. No one is going to ask you the square root of 81. What screams poorly educated? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.